Hey everyone, welcome to Tea and Chocolate. My name is Lauren Spagnolo, for those of you who don't know me. Today I have this special honor, and to me it is a genuine honor that I have Buck Angel with me on this in today's session. I'm in Canada, I'm on the West Coast, and Buck is on the West Coast of the United States. And today there's much more to Buck Angel than we're actually going to be talking about, because Buck Angel is a transsexual. So when I say he's a transsexual, like, we all have other parts of ourselves. So I just wanted to preface that, And Buck right now is on a massive journey, and I purposely didn't see your documentary just for this show because I wanted to keep it fresh and learn more about how you what decision at what point in your life as an adult. I understand that you transitioned and you describe yourself as a transsexual. So thank you so much for being with me today. I'm so, this is surreal for me, just watching all your interviews. I just love you. Thank you.
Oh, that's so sweet. Thank you. First off, thanks so much for having me. I super appreciate it. I'm all about conversation, as you know,
Yes.
tough conversation, if you want to call it that or whatever. But, I'm pretty much an open book. So I do appreciate you having me on so we can have, a different side of the story that's happening out there. And
Absolutely.
yeah, so
So
thank you.
tell me why you describe yourself as a transsexual, and can you tell us a little bit about the journey from, where you want to begin, whether it's
Mhm.
childhood, etc., and what
Yeah.
your birth name was, if you don't mind my
Sure.
asking.
No, great question. So first off, I'm a transsexual. So my name is Buck Angel, and I'm a biological female who was born 61 years ago, and 30 years ago, now I think it's 31 maybe, I transitioned to live my life male. And so I want people to understand that I'm not a man. I am a transsexual man, and I still retain my biology, even though I don't look like a female, hopefully. And so I consider myself a transsexual. And so what transsexual means is that I'm very acknowledging of my biology, and that I know I'm born female, and I transitioned to live my life as a man medically. And what that means is I was diagnosed with a mental disorder, which I do have a mental disorder called gender dysphoria. And that disorder enabled me to move forward into a medical space, because now I figured, because I never felt comfortable being a female, if that makes sense. And so, that's what gender dysphoria is. And I transitioned to live that way 30 years ago with the diagnosis of gender dysphoria. So a transsexual person is different than what you see today, which is transgender, transgender is an umbrella term for any diverse gender, whatever it means, whatever non-binary, gender non-conforming, even trans people call themselves that. But the difference between me and them is that they identify as trans. I do not identify as trans. I have a medical condition called transsexualism, and I identify as a male. So I think that's a very important distinction between myself and what a sort of newer generation of trans. Those people self-identify. I got an actual diagnosis from an actual therapist and went through a whole procedure to become this person.
Well, that's an excellent explanation. Thank you for
Thank
that.
you. Thank
Yes,
you.
yes. So, how did you feel about losing? I wouldn't say you losing, but maybe if there was a grieving process of who you were before
Mm.
as a biological woman, but by the way, who is beautiful because I've seen the photos. um, and and coming into this new self that you had to kind of, I guess, discover.
Yeah, I will say that was later on in my transition. So I didn't really like myself. I'll be honest with you. I'm not this person who I like myself. I
Right.
wasn't. I didn't like myself. And I was very, became very alcoholic and drug addicted and homeless at one point and addicted to drugs. And I became a cutter, and that was in high school. And I just didn't like myself. I tried to live as a gay woman for many years of my life. And I will say, looking back now, I appreciate that struggle, and I appreciate living the lesbian lifestyle, because it really did give me a perspective on so many things, and that I did need to do what I did. But that being said, I didn't like myself. And I would say now I do like her name was Laura, and I do like Laura, and I do very much appreciate Laura a lot. And Laura is part of my life now, and I don't call it a dead name, and I don't disassociate. But I do understand the younger generation doing those things because I, on some level, did that. It wasn't until I matured and got to understand myself and my journey that I have gotten through this transition, and also the real gratitude I have for this transition. I don't feel entitled to this at all. I feel grateful for it in some sense. So by being grateful, I sort of took all the negative and brought it into the positive and said, okay, this is what I had to do. And how grateful is it and how amazing is it that I got to live literally half my life in a female form and then half my life in a sort of male form is so incredible for me. I think it gives me a lot of wisdom on some level.
Absolutely. One of the things well, there's a lot of things I notice with you when you're speaking to your audience is the level of emotional immaturity and growth you have
Thank you. Thank you.
that you output out there for everyone to really notice that about you, because regardless if you're trans or if you're, if you're in this sort of space, if you will, it's
Yeah,
all relatable, right?
that's right.
It's how we relate to each other. And I think this
Totally.
is your basic message, if I might humbly say so. One of many things, by the way. And I love that about you. It's like,
Thank
this
you.
is the person that we need to listen to when it comes to this whole big conversation.
Yeah, thank you. I
So,
appreciate it. I think listening to everybody, right, is important because I
yeah,
think that we
sure.
but we're only listening to one side. Like, I get platformed. Don't get me wrong, as you know, and I built my own platform. But
Yes,
at the same time, I don't get the same, or not just me, but people like me. I'm not the only one who thinks this way. But I
yes.
think it's really important, and why I'm so grateful to speak to you today, because I don't think that the world is getting the opportunity to get the full space. And you can't make informed choices without hearing every pros, cons, this, that, and they're only seeing this one idea of what trans is. And that's not fair, not only to me, but to you. It's not fair to you that you only get this one side of a story.
Right. There's a physician online who wrote something along the lines of this particular movement right now is because of childhood trauma. And I know that in your case, it's not the case because
Mm-mm.
you had a very positive childhood.
That's right. I had an awesome, of course things happened. I mean,
Yeah,
come on, people.
everywhere.
Yeah,
Of course. Yeah.
I'm not gonna play into that. Let me tell you, man. Yeah, I grew up in the 60s and 70s when you could spank kids, and I got spankings, and I got things that today you'd be like, wow. But that's a different generation. And I used to think, oh, I got beat up as a kid. Now I look back now as a parent, I'm like, what? Spankings are important. Don't try it. I mean, I'm talking about spanking. I'm not talking about punching a kid in
I
the face.
understand.
Yeah.
Yeah. I
So
also got spanked. So
yeah, I mean, I just personally, it's not child abuse. Anyway, so I grew up very normal, if that makes sense. Like, I grew up in the San Fernando Valley here in Los Angeles. I was a little tomboy. I was all those, skater, and my parents let me be that boy. My parents were super awesome, and they really struggled with me. They did, and they didn't have the help that some people have today. But look what my parents did. They did an amazing. My parents are incredible. I will only say good things about my parents, and they
that's
struggled with
wonderful.
me. And but if it wasn't for, I think, the great childhood I had, I'm not sure if I would be this person I am today.
Right, 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 right. So you have like a really incredible like sort of worldwide view of what's going on right now.
Yeah.
From where you came from with say like it sounds like you took all the legitimate steps to
Yes.
transitioning at the right time as an adult.
That's right. That's
So
right.
what kind of pains that you're looking at and you're going, oh my God.
Wow. Just wow. Where do I start?
I know there are a few.
I mean, I would say first and foremost, I want everybody to know that I'm not against transitioning.
Yeah,
Clearly, I please. I mean, why?
but we're
That's
not
just ridiculous. That's like saying
exactly.
that's like me getting fixed and then slamming the door on everybody. Like, too bad for you. Not even. I've traveled the world in my work and advocated for transsexual people for many, many, many years and helped change laws and blah blah blah. But for adults. So that being said, I just want
Yeah,
everybody to know I'm here for the kids. I
yeah,
do not believe children should medically transition, or even on some level transition. And I think that we are not having the honest discussion about that. So I really think the number one mess I see, first off, is children being put in this picture. And whenever you put children in anything, you better be prepared for pushback. And so I don't believe there are trans children. I believe these are children dealing with possible trauma, possible gender dysphoria, no doubt, many kinds of things that kids deal with, right? The thing that I can tell you here that me and you relate to is being a kid. Everyone's been a kid. So you can't say that some people don't know. Of course, everyone knows. Everyone's been a kid. And everyone struggled on some level probably as a kid. I don't think any kid just came out of it without something, there for them. So I think that first and foremost, why I really put my voice into the world is to really kind of get a different opinion started about transitioning children.
Where do you think parents fit into this whole? Because, and by the way,
yep. Thank you. Great book. Abigail's a great friend of mine.
Yeah, you're on page 205.
Yeah,
She's written a chapter on you. I was just so thrilled when I got there. I went, "Oh my God, Buck!" So
awesome.
Yeah.
Abigail's awesome. And other thing I want to say is, she is not transphobic. I wish
I
people
know.
just went after that book, because that says to me something,
Yeah.
right? When people go after a book and want to shut it down, and it's no, my friends, whether you agree with it or not, you better not starting banning books. And secondly, I'm a transsexual, transition before many of the people you see today. I'm not hurt by that book. I don't think that book is bad. So why am I okay with it, but they're not?
Yeah, this book is very empowering if you let it be.
That's right.
Right.
There you go.
To go back to what you were saying, so this book is actually specifically, she's looking at teenage girls, so the sudden surge of why this is happening. So to Buck's comment about children, this whole idea, I think, and I've heard you say this, where medical professionals will say something about the suicide rates.
Yes, that's right.
Right, which is false, right? Which is factually false. Okay.
Factually false. There's a difference between suicidal ideation and suicide. How dare they put that false narrative? Now, there is a high rate of suicidal ideation. 100% there is. I mean, that's always been there in the LGBT community, because the world doesn't accept. There's many layers to that, right? But I would also kind of lay that on young girls. There's also a high rate of suicidal ideation in young girls without even that, right?
Right. Yeah.
The pressure on young girls is way, I don't know if it's more than young boys. It's just different. And so that being said, there we go. There's number one. There's a lie. That is not true. If you do not transition your child, they're going to die. That is not true. Show me where all the dead kids are. And you can't, because and I thank God you can't, but I even hate having to say it, but come on, man. When you start saying stuff like that, that just turns people off when they find out the truth, because the truth is that's not true. And now everyone's going to go, but why are you saying there's a high rate of suicide when there isn't? And
so
then
why are they saying it?
To scare you. It's called gaslighting, right? So to scare you and gaslight you, and to say, oh no, you're wrong, because if you don't do it, they're going to all kill themselves. And it's a full-on gaslighting tactic, and it's a tactic to grab at your heart and to say, oh, these poor kids, we got to do this. If we don't, they're just not gonna, it's really that. And that to me is so insane, that we feel that we need to lie, and we feel that we need to make up these ideas that are not true, because guess what? When you lie, it will come back to you. You better not lie. Somehow, some way, that lie will come back to you. And now it's going to start to come back on us. And what's going to happen is that people are not going to listen to us now, and they're not going to believe us because we lied to them.
Well, there's so many nuances and complexities to this whole thing. And I think that those individuals who are in fact lying, that's a hell of a lot. That's a truckload of karma. Oh. Like, the consequences to that, to me, are like, are you kidding me? So here we go. You talk about trans, as a mental disorder.
Yep.
how would you describe these individuals that are lying to you, like mentally? Like, do you get the question?
Yeah, I do.
I've been thinking about that for a long time.
Well, let me say this here. So I accept my mental disorder. I always have, I always will.
Right?
Having a mental disorder is a diagnosis. Having a diagnosis helps me and people like me, and I'm not speaking for the transgender community, by
Yeah.
the way, but I'm
Yeah.
speaking for
Yeah.
a group of people I know, like myself, who
Yeah.
would have no problem with me saying this.
Right.
That being said, we accept our diagnosis. That's why we call ourselves transsexuals, because
Right.
we are perfectly okay with the medical aspect of this, which it should be, because it's a medical space. It is
Right.
not a so that being said, the people who are pushing against this diagnosis and this idea that you have a mental disorder are doing that so they can self ID, right? Because now we have self ID. What other mental disorder can you self ID? None. Not even a disorder. You have to go to the doctor to get to find out if you have diabetes or something, whatever, cancer or whatever, right? You cannot self-diagnose diabetes. You have to. So the same, it's in that same space. And also, I need to let you know, it's very important that this is a mental disorder. And why is that? Because I fought for years to get this into a space of medical and insurance. And some of us can't afford, it's very expensive to take hormones, to do surgeries, to do all that. So I
Yes.
fought to get it into that space amongst other ones of us so that insurance would be. So if we take it out of our medical, what
Yeah.
happens?
Right.
Insurance is like, it's not, it's elective.
Yeah.
You're self-IDing. This isn't that. And that's exactly what's going to happen. But I really believe those people who are not really trans,
Yeah.
who have taken over this community because they have self-ID and they say anyone can be trans, and it's gatekeeping if you have a doctor. I'm like, gatekeeping, that is okay, then let's just get rid of all medical. Because
Yeah.
then all medical is gatekeeping.
Yeah, I mean, well, that's the concern that I have. Like for those who are truly on the authentic, like on this authentic path of being trans in their
That's right.
own right, where these rights are actually going to be taken away from
That's
the
right.
likes of people that are just like, we can name them off. I mean,
That's
at the
right.
end of the day, I see you, I see your guests, Ms. Blair White, even Mina Caputo. I mean, there's a list of individuals that you have interviewed or I've listened to interview,
Mhm.
as Blair is also an interviewer,
Mhm.
that you have this mental disorder, but you're also very rational and very emotionally astute and wise. I've
Thank you.
noticed that across the board. So
Thank
to
you.
me, it's like, who are the ones that actually require
It's a great point.
my point. The real sort of culprit is like those physicians that say that are not going to question you to say, well, but are you actually trans or what's actually going on? As opposed to, yeah, you are, and let's just get on the bandwagon.
I mean,
Yeah.
you actually think we're helping somebody, especially young people? You
Mhm.
think we're helping a young person by going, oh, sure, you're trans. Yeah,
Right.
20 minutes, 20 minutes. Oh, so tell me about yourself. Oh, you have short hair. You have
Right.
wear pants. You want to play with these things. You want to be a scientist. Oh, for sure, you're trans. I'm not even kidding. That sounds so insane. That's what's happening. And so then what happens is these kids think they're trans. They get 20-minute intake. They literally get testosterone like that in 20 minutes. And then they start their journey with their friends, and that's their support group. And then it becomes a nightmare because they're not really trans. And now they have taken a substance called testosterone, this right here, which
Yeah.
they keep saying is reversible, which this is not reversible. A lot of damage to my body from it. But as an adult, I choose that. That being said, how dare we send people down a path of this with just this nonchalant kind of attitude that, well, if you don't like it, you can just go back. Really? That's
Right. So Buck, is Lupron different, obviously, than testosterone, right? Are we talking
oh
that's a
God.
puberty blocker?
Totally. Yep. That's a puberty blocker.
So let
That's
me ask you this. So, okay, let me just say this. A while ago, I sent you what our provincial health authority had
mhm.
written on their website regarding puberty blockers without sort of any warning
Wow.
or the side effects, right? So, and I'm thinking, okay, why are they doing that? What's the relationship with the pharma?
That's right.
Uh,
There you
You
go.
know, yeah.
Yep.
And so, in this constant sort of narrative that you're putting out there about the dangers of puberty blockers.
Oh my God. I have facts. I have actual facts. These people don't have facts. They're lying about it. Number two, I work with a woman who was put on Lupron. It destroyed her life. So I found a group of women, actual biological women, who have been given this medication for because they give it to women for, all kinds of menstrual
Well,
problems and
yeah, right. Okay.
menstrual problems, stuff that has to do with the uterus and all of this kind of stuff. And so it destroyed all of their lives. They have so many health problems, and these are grown adults who took it. Now place that upon a child. It is insane the amount of damage it does to a child's body, and they're lying to you that it's reversible. None of the damage. So I'm actually going to be interviewing an 18-year-old young woman who was put on Lupron at the age of 13. No, was it 10, or she started early? So that particular drug is used for a thing called precocious puberty. And
Okay.
precocious puberty is when a child, maybe 7 or 6, starts to grow breasts and have her period. And that is
Ah,
not right. So
right.
they
Yeah.
they put it to slow down the puberty so that she can catch up to her peers. And it's always been used for that, but that is very rare.
Right.
So I met a girl who was put on it at, I don't know, maybe it was under 10. It has destroyed her life. She is now 18. She has brain tumors. She has lupus, I think. She's suffering beyond, she's 18. She's 18. She has cancer. She has all kinds of stuff. And I'm going to be interviewing her, and I'm going to show the world that you are all wrong. This girl right now, her whole life is ruined, and they never told her of the side effects. So they're doing the same thing for these trans kids and blocking, it's we're going to pause puberty. Oh, and what world do you live in? You don't pause anything. There's no, so with the pause, think of the pause button. Pause, right? We're here, we pause. And then what happens when you press it again? It keeps going. That's not what happens. When you pause puberty, you've now taken out whatever amount of time that puberty was. You never get that back. So that's not a pause. That's why they're lying. So a pause is starting from where you stopped, but that's not true, because if you're having a normal puberty, you can't pause it and go back to it. So that's what irritates me, is this insane lie about what puberty blockers are and what they do. They damage the body. Every child should go through puberty, no matter what. And it's no such thing as the wrong puberty. And so they keep saying it's the wrong puberty. I went through puberty. Look at me. I look like a dude. So stupid.
Okay, so educate me here for a minute. I know why you've taken testosterone.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
When do they give children testosterone? So, like, what's the difference that they put a child on testosterone or someone on Lupron?
Right. So that's a great question. So the reason they put them on puberty blockers is because you're not even actually making the hormones at that point. Your body kind of starts to make hormones at a certain time. You go through puberty, and then from there you go to male or female, and you start producing more testosterone, or you start producing more estrogen. Also, what happens during puberty, and why they want to block puberty, is physical characteristics. So
Right.
this is a very important part of this, because people don't understand. Pardon me. They're blocking puberty for physical characteristics. So they're blocking it so you
Ooh,
don't grow big shoulders, you don't grow big hands,
right.
and it's
Yeah.
mostly for male to female, because female, like me, female to male, I don't have the characteristics that are gonna show up, because look at me, I just took testosterone. So from that, you block the puberty so you don't get the characteristics.
Mhm.
This is the part that's so insane to me. They're only doing it because of physical characteristics. They're not talking about all the internal damage it is doing to that body. They're only concerned with this child growing up so they don't look masculine or don't look. I'm like, what? That is absurd. So now what happens is you go on puberty blockers for X amount, maybe a year or 8 months. And then from there, they give you the cross-sex hormones. So let's say you're a girl and you're changing to a boy, they put you on puberty blockers from that puberty time. Once you finish that puberty, they start you on testosterone. So that's when you take the cross-sex hormones, right? So does that make sense?
Yeah. 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 Well, thank you for that. Um, okay. We've got Pride Month this month.
We
And
sure do.
yeah, which are true. Yeah. What would you say the difference in messaging from years ago in your experience and today?
Mhm.
And then I'll just add to this that one of my friends, dear friends, who's one of the most open-minded human beings you could ever meet, and um, she has a son, a young child in elementary school,
Mhm.
and she's just her. She feels like her hands are tied, and of course they've got all these kids dressing in pride and so on and so forth. And she is the most, who's tried all sorts of things in her life. I'll just say that, okay?
Sure.
So, but she's just concerned about, I just want my child the opportunity to be a kid without the pressures, without this. And so, like, yeah, just speak on all that if you don't mind.
Well, I'm just so sick of it all. I'm telling you. It's like, I fight for the right for us to have our transition. There is no doubt about it, but I also fight for
Yeah,
reality. And
right,
I this is a very small percentage of humanity being trans. It's a disorder that's always been small and it always will be small.
right.
So when you start adding this into the school system and start saying stuff like the binary isn't real, there is no such thing as boys or girls. You're actually damaging all of us. And you're actually doing such weird, nonsensical stuff because that just doesn't make sense to me. There is a binary, and it's the reason you are trans. So, that being said, now you're giving this to young people, right? And they're starting to question, well, am I a boy? Why would you have a boy or a girl question themselves when they've never questioned themselves before? That's an ideology, by the way. And so, I actually really do not agree with that being taught in the school system in any way, shape, or form. And I'm a parent, so I would say that
Yes.
even I fight against it as a transsexual. I go to the school and I'm like, what are you teaching? You better not be teaching my kid about non-binary, or I don't care what the teacher's identity choice is. That's ridiculous. So no, I'm not okay with that. I think in high school, I
Yeah,
have a little bit more mixed feelings about
for
it,
sure,
but
for
I do not believe in elementary school. We should even be touching and pride. What? Why are we even talking about pride in elementary school? It doesn't really, you know, I understand some people are like, well, because there could be a gay kid there. Sure, there could be a gay kid there. There's no doubt it. There could be a trans kid. There could be a
yeah,
lesbian. There could
absolutely.
be
Yeah,
whatever.
yeah,
But it's such a small percentage. It's always going to be a small percentage. And so I feel like that's an indoctrination. And I feel that it's not fair to parents who aren't okay with it. And look, I don't expect the whole world to like me or to accept what I've done. Of course not. Some religions aren't okay with it. And I
mhm,
have to be okay with that.
for
And I
sure.
am okay with it.
Yeah,
That's your choice of religion. It's not my
right,
choice. And I
right.
respect your choice. So you have to, that's how you make things work, friend. I respect you, you respect me, we move on. You go that way, I go that way. We never bother each other and we're all good. But now these people want to clash with everybody and say, if you don't respect us and you don't, then you're a bigot. Nope, you're the bigot because you're not listening to other people. And it's not just about you. And that's a very kind of fascist or sort of Marxist way of thinking that we all
Right.
have to think like, we all have to do this. And
Yeah.
so no,
But
I'm totally against it, and I feel for parents now. I do. I feel
yeah.
for them. I can't even imagine. I would be so mad.
It sounds like you have a lot of power. Can I make that assumption?
Yeah, my friend, I do. And that's why I'm looked at in a way from the community, right? That they are scared of me and they want to shut my voice down. There is no doubt about it. There's a part of this community who thinks I'm dangerous and that I'm spreading false information. Right. A 30-plus-year transsexual man who has traveled the world and fought and changed laws across the world for trans people is against this. Yeah, I'm against an agenda is what I'm against. And I'm
Yeah,
against transitioning children
right.
because I remember when I did this, I had to go through 2 years of therapy, intensive therapy. I had to make sure I was this person before that doctor would even let me take testosterone. And that's the way you do it. And
Yeah,
that's always been proven the right way. We
right.
had very few, if any, detransitioners back in the day because we had a system in place, which I call safed, and they call it gatekeeping. I call it safekeeping. What the hell's wrong with all you people? Why would you want anyone to be trans? I don't want anyone to be trans. I want somebody to grow into a space where they're happy in the world. And if we're leading kids down a path that says they're trans and then 5 years later they say they're not, what are we doing? We're
Mhm.
we're ruining everything we've built. And you can already tell that it's just their whole foundation is built, it's false. Their foundation is false. So what happens? It crashes. And that's what's happened. The weight of the lies are coming down on all of their stuff. And the detransitioners are pretty much the pillar of the downfall of that community.
Well, as I'm observing what's going on in the United States, I notice that parents are really fighting, and it looks like it's always the people on the right.
That's right.
And
That's
so,
right.
of course, there's going to be a real judgment around that.
That's right.
And because they're on the right, and they'll bring in the whole religion thing, and has nothing to do with that.
Nope.
That's not what I see.
Nope.
And there's more fighting and for your rights though in the States.
That's
I
right.
like that part. I really do.
Yep.
Because just like you go in and you're talking to your teachers and you're asking, or your teachers.
Yeah.
My friend's teacher said, I don't have a choice.
That's right.
Right.
That's because they go, I'm lucky enough to be able to put my kid in a private school. And so you have here in the United States, you have a little more, I guess, control when you go to a private school.
Right.
And you don't have as much control over it when you go to a public school. But that being said, we still can protest and show up at school meetings and speak to the supervisors of the school system, which we are doing now. There's a lot of parents starting to step up, and a lot of parents can feel very mad about this. It's setting back LGBT rights so far.
Well,
all the work. Oh my God. All the work
that's just it. That's just, it sets back so many things. Okay. That's the other thing.
Yeah, I'm so mad.
Yeah.
I'm actually mad because it's like, what are you people doing? You're destroying, so much of what we've built, and so much pain. And I lost a lot of my friends, if not all, to AIDS during that epidemic. And no one talked, that's a real genocide right there. And they're trans genocide. Oh, it makes me so mad. How dare you lie to the world? Trans genocide. No, genocide means death. Why don't you talk about gay men who fought for our rights back in the day, who, if it wasn't for gay men, I wouldn't be here. It was gay men who helped me transition. It was gay men who took me under their wing. There were no trans people when I transitioned. So this idea that trans people are on the forefront of gay rights is a complete, total lie. And it's they keep rewriting the narrative. They lie. They make shit up about they make stuff up about the community, about trans people being the leaders at Stonewall. That's all not true. None of it. It's weird.
Right. So, okay. The other thing that I feel that it's set back is the space of biological women.
That's right.
And I'm wondering, you were a person who was an athlete. You were a woman. You were a biological woman who was an athlete.
Yep.
Okay. So you obviously have an opinion on this, I'm thinking. And what the deep question is that why are women in the past, like say, 5 years or so that this has been emerging, why are biological women still feel silent?
That's right.
In this day and age, to say, look, I love you regardless of what you want to do, but stay in your no pun lane while Riley Gaines just goes and wins
Unbelievable.
And so if you could, I would love to get your perspective on that.
It's a misogynistic movement.
Yeah.
I'm going to say it right here. I don't care what anybody thinks about me. And also, trans women are not women. Trans women are biological men. Come on, people. Stop it. Stop lying. I'm a biological female. They're biological male. That's what makes us trans. So there's differences in biology. And it's why they keep trying to say that they're women and they're not biological men, so that they can be that they're not the same as biological women. Number one. Number two, how shameful of them. Shameful and gross. And it makes us look so insane. You're going to just push a woman out of, I worked hard to get to this really pretty high-ranking female. It's harder for women than it is. And that was in the 70s and 80s. Can you imagine? Like, it was a whole other world, man. People, I could tell you stories. And so today I relate to female athletes, and I've always stood behind them. And 10 years ago I was on the Joe Rogan podcast, and
I heard that podcast.
We discussed that, and I was one of the first trans people to really step up there and say, no way, trans women should not be competing with women. And that was the beginning of people just thinking I'm transphobic. And I'm not going to sit here and watch that nonsense. And also, they need to listen to women. If you want to be a woman, come on, respect women. But all the trans women I know are like that. They respect you. They hear you. They would never do what these weirdos are doing. And, remember this, trans women are biological men. They were socialized as men. They come to this game in a different way. They're used to getting their way because it's a man's world. And if you look, you can just see their energy and how they sort of come to this in a very kind of pushing, angry, do you see trans men in this argument?
I know.
Very few, if
Very
any.
few. Very few.
Biological female.
So then, Buck, who are the organization Women to Women?
Yeah.
Right. Okay. So they're advocates for women in prisons.
Yep.
Who
So am
are
I.
okay, right. So who are the trans that right that that end up this I don't mean to be laughing here because this is
No, we should laugh because it's a comical, but those women are suffering in prison. It's
I
comical.
understand. Yeah, right.
Yeah.
So they are. So who in your opinion are the trans that go in and they happen to get in within the women's, that's who they think they are, and they end up raping women.
And it's gross.
Right. But who is that? Are they actually trans or that's what
So I want to let you know that, there's been trans women in prison forever, right? But they never got put into women's prison for a reason. They have a penis.
Yes.
And so guess what?
Yeah.
Guess what a penis does with a vagina? Do we need to do like that class now? Like, people wake up. So you get put in a woman's prison and you have a penis, something's going to happen.
Yeah.
And also something might happen that might not be okay with that other inmate being a woman, right? It might not be, they might not consent. It might not be consensual sex.
Right.
And so we are hearing this now from the women here in California, and that they are being bullied and raped and that they aren't comfortable with these people. So how come we're not listening to the women? How come we're only listening to transgender women? And how come transgender women who are in prison, by the way, get rights? Go back, dude. You created a crime. Deal with it. You know what, my friend? You don't get those rights when you're in prison. Okay, you'll get the human rights, food and clothing and bedding and water and all the things. You're not going to suffer, but you don't get to choose where you get to go. That's a gift, or what would you say? Like a thing that you get if you're a person who should be on some level, like, get these kinds of things, but you're in prison. Are we forgetting that? So make a space in prison for trans women. What's wrong with everybody? Make a space in sports for trans women if it's so important. It's this small part of the universe. It's such a small, and now we're bending over backwards for these people and forgetting about women saying, hey, wait a minute, man, I'm not cool with this. So, here in California, I'm working with an organization. I think it's Women to Women, actually, with Amy. Her name is Amy. And Amy is getting me into the women's prison here in it's California outside here. And so I'm going to be going in and speaking to the trans men in the prison and starting to see, and they're going to start telling me what's really going on in there. So I'm very excited about that.
This is wonderful.
Yep, totally.
Good for you.
Thank you. Thank you.
And, I have to say that the word privilege has been thrown around a lot.
Of course it has.
Right? Like, and the hypocrisy around it.
Thank you.
Because what you just said to me also that reaffirms this is the fact that this particular group, someone in this universe, whether it's the pharma, the World Economic Forum, whoever it is, pharma, tech, and finance, those three organizations that are are given this particular group, and I would suggest that it's a separate group from you and right. Yeah. This privilege.
That's right. Why do they get to have these special privileges over everyone else, over women, even over trans men on some level?
For sure.
Why? Well, my answer was the same answer I gave you before: biological males.
Right.
They're biological males. This is a misogynistic movement.
Yeah, it is.
There's no doubt. I'm looking at it from
Really
the
is.
eyes of a woman. I lived half my life as a female,
Right.
half my life as a man. It's why I'm dangerous to their agenda,
Yeah.
because I have lived in both shoes, and I don't see a respect for women coming from these certain trans women, not all trans women,
No,
a certain
yes.
group.
And I
Yes.
think that I sometimes when I get into conversations about these things, I'm very passionate about it because I do, number one, your sort of same passion is for our children and sort of like this is a generation of kids that we're affecting.
Oh my God.
And I'm that on top of the gadgets they're connected to, and that's a whole other conversation
Yep.
for
Yep.
and that to me deeply concerns me along with this movement of biological women, and I'm wondering where those radical feminists are today. Where are you?
Great question. I do think that they tried to speak up for a little while, especially on Twitter, because there's a lot
And
of that craziness there. But I
yeah,
think they got silenced, and I think they are getting silent. I'm not kidding. I do think women get silenced now, and they get taken off the platforms, and they get told that they're being transphobic. And that's why the turf thing is actually powerful, because they're not really turfs, these people. They're just, these women. I get called a turf. It's
what's a
insane.
turf? What's a turf?
Trans exclusionary, which means
Ah,
you do not want
yeah,
any exclusionary
right,
radical feminist. I'm far
right,
from a trans exclusionary radical feminist. It's just
right.
that it's now a slur, an insult to say that you are transphobic, because
I
transphobic
see.
isn't good enough, and
Yeah,
everyone's transphobic these days. And
right.
if you have a different opinion, you're a bigot and you're a Nazi. And that's how you can tell it's fake. I
Yeah,
can sit here and have a conversation with you, even if me and you had totally opposing opinions,
for
and
sure.
I would still sit with you and I would still have the conversation. You're not a bigot to me. You just have a different opinion and you don't understand my lifestyle, and that's okay too. And
Right.
so that they're not willing to, so they want you, right? Here's the hypocrisy of the whole thing. They want you to accept everything about them. But they will not accept things about you. You,
Mhm.
you understand what I'm saying? So
Yeah.
why is it that we have to say, oh, everything they're saying is the right way, but I have a different opinion as a woman and I'm not comfortable? Oh, you're a bigot. It's not a real movement, because you have to give and take in a space, right?
Right.
Nothing is all the way. If you want to change the world, you have to be able to give and take. It's like a relationship. You think you're going to just get your way all the time? You got to compromise in a relationship. And it's the same here. I want to have a relationship with you. So we compromise. They're not willing to compromise. And that's the fascist part of that movement.
Mm-hmm. Just touching a little bit on the pronoun thing.
Mhm.
I won't use pronouns, and there's very specific reasons as to why, based on the discussion that we're having today.
Mhm.
But also, I don't think a lot of people know why they use it. They might think because they're being inclusive, they've gone to
Mhm.
inclusive classes as corporations, but do they actually understand and know who Buck Angel is? Do they actually understand that we have thousands of detransitioners coming forward? And
Yep.
this is sort of like, but what about them? Why are you
Right.
putting your pronouns when you've got Chloe Cole
I know.
and the 18-year-old that you're going to be speaking to,
Yep.
and the other one, Parker, that you
Parker. That's right. Parker. Yep.
um, this is like, and all the stories that Abigail Schreier touches on irreversible damage are
That's right.
heartbreaking.
Heartbreaking.
Heartbreaking. What do you
But
do with that?
you see how they want to ban that book?
Oh,
It's so obvious. It's
but
so
when they,
obvious.
right, and you know that when they tried to ban the book, I said I didn't even know that I was going to be doing this with you. Like I bought the book over a year ago. I thought I'm getting
Great.
that book,
Great. Thank you.
right, because of this whole cancel culture thing. Yes, but if you
Sure.
could please touch on that, the detransitioners.
Well, like I said before, we're
Mhm.
pushing kids through this thing because they say they're trans without any psychological evaluation. And every detransitioner I have, every single one, and I've done a lot of them, has told me the exact same thing. They felt, number one, they were just told they were. Number two, there was some peer pressure from their friends. Number three, that they had a 20-minute intake. I'm not kidding, 20 minutes at most of the time Planned Parenthood. They were
Okay.
given the actual prescription for testosterone, or the actual bottle of testosterone that day, told to go to YouTube and learn how to inject the testosterone. I'm like, what? What the heck? That is so dangerous. You know, it is not just a thing to inject. You know, you could get a bubble in it. We have to make sure there's no air in the needle. There's a very specific way to inject. And also, like, this testosterone is not healthy for our bodies. It's a foreign substance. So the reason we have now detransitioners is because we're basically a factory. We're just rushing kids. There was a surgeon who was doing 30 top, which we call top surgery, which is a
Yes.
double mastectomy,
Yes.
30 a month. That's one a day. So what?
Oh my
That's a
God.
factory. That's a
Wow.
factory, you
Yeah.
know, and that's why all the kids have scars. I don't have any scars. And my doctor took his time and did a, you know, job, and it took a long, and it was like, you know, now doctors are just like, bam, 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 bam. And these kids all have these scars that they're celebrating. And I'm like thinking, you're 16. I want to see you in 5 years. And I bet you're going to be so mad that you did that to your body. Yet here we are just saying, well, these kids know what they want. Nobody knows what they want at 16, especially surgery that is actually going to take your, on some level, deform your body. And you're never going to come back from that. And I saw a doctor. There's a video of one of the biggest trans children's doctors here in Los Angeles. And she was in a conference and she was saying, well, you know, you can just tell them if they remove their breasts, they can just get new ones put on. I'm sure you saw that. I'm like, you're sick, lady. You are sick. And you're a doctor saying that?
Mm.
It's
That- that-
absurd.
yeah, that's a very disengaging comment. It's disrespectful.
It's gross.
Yeah.
I mean, how dare you tell a young person that they're not the same breast? What if they decide to have babies? They're not going to breastfeed. You know what I mean? And then, like, it's just the whole thing is a mess and it's not right. We are doing children a disservice. We're not doing a service to kids. Once you start having detransitioners, the whole thing should have been shut down. But as we're ramping it up, so we're ramping up every day, there's a detransitioner. Every single day, there's a
Yeah.
new person detransitioning. And somebody might have taken hormones, somebody not. I don't care. The psychological damage to this child is, you know, why are we not giving them long-term therapy? And why are we not trying to get them out of the dysphoria? And because that's what we used to do. We try to let you kind of grow out of it and move forward. And hopefully you don't have to transition. You know, I wanted to be born a man. I don't want to be trans. Now it's like this gift to be trans. And they've sort of they're just misappropriating what it is to be trans and making it into something that it is not.
Hmm. Yeah, there's a separate it's a cult.
Yeah, on some
You know,
level, I totally see that, and that saddens me. It's like an ideology. It's like this is not not an ideology. I'm
right.
not. If you notice, I don't ID as trans. That's not my my identification is male, and that's what we're seeing the difference between this younger generation is. I'm trans, 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 trans. They're identifying with their disorder. Right. And they're identifying as trans. We never did that. Our trans is our medical space. It's our it's like saying I have diabetes. It's like, you know what I mean? Running around the world like, yeah, I have cancer and I live in that disorder. Like, what? Nobody does that.
Hmm. Hmm. So at the end of the day, we've kind of touched on a little bit about the sort of a little bit of the agenda.
Yeah.
Who do you think is using this group, this community to their advantage?
Money. It
Money?
has to be money. I mean, I'm very, I'm stunted because I'm like, what? But then
Yeah.
obviously everyone knows it. Go back to the money, you know. And I saw, which is really sick, and that's why I had a hard time getting that into my brain because I'm like, no
Yeah.
way with the
Me too.
medical world, no way with
Right.
doctors, no way would, yeah, they would. Yeah, they would. And they do it because it all, so I start tracing back all kinds of disabilities throughout, you know, our time on this earth. Remember ADHD? And that was a huge one in the 80s. And they just started giving kids all kinds of medication to like do this. And they found out that that was the wrong thing to do. So we're going to see this as a huge medical scandal. There's no doubt in my mind.
Mhm.
And it really stems from lies, the misinformation that's being put out there. Money is so abundant in that field. Insurance is now connected to it. So now it's a whole racket as far as I'm concerned. You can go online. So I had to get a letter from my therapist. And the letter from my therapist came after 2 years of intensive therapy. Now you can go to Planned Parenthood and they'll write you a letter, or you can go to these clinics and they'll write you a letter for $150. That's a racket. That you get the same letter I got, which I had to go to actual therapy to get. You can get that same therapy letter, and you need that letter in order for insurance to pay for your hormones. So now it's a racket, and you pay 150 to a therapist who's just writing it without any therapy time.
Mhm.
And that is where we're going to get nailed. But you watch, the insurance companies are going to find out. They're already going to find out about it. It's already being exposed by Matt Walsh. And so it's going to, they're
Right.
going to be in
Yeah.
big trouble,
Yeah.
big trouble.
Yeah. Yeah. I wondered what you thought about that film, What is a Woman by Matt Well.
I think it's important. I have mixed
Yeah.
feelings, like I think we
Yeah.
all do, of
Yeah.
course.
Yeah.
Matt Walsh doesn't believe that any of us should exist. So, I have
That's
mixed.
the other thing, right? That's the
Yeah,
concern that I have
bummer.
is sort of like
Yeah,
sometimes when you do see Christian views
yeah,
having this idea that you should not be able to exist or that
that's
it
right.
doesn't that it's not true. I don't know. I mean, I think that to me, when I heard your story about how you met your partner, your
Hmm.
wife,
Hmm.
Rebecca Armstrong,
Hmm.
and how that kind of fruition came to
Hmm.
together. And just who you are as a human being, to me that's the miracle of life, right? No one can really
That's right.
no one can judge that. And I think,
Only the universe, God, whatever you want to call it.
yeah,
That's it. That is and that's I'm going to tell you why I can do this work.
uh-huh.
That's why I do this work. I don't answer to anybody but the universe. I don't care what you say about me. I know exactly what I'm doing, and I feel the love from the universe, God, whatever you want to call it.
Right,
And I know that's why I have I'm not wobbly. Matt, nope, I'm solid in my foundation with
yeah,
my maker, and I
yeah,
know exactly what I'm supposed to do and how I do it, and I do
right.
not feel in any way, shape, or form that what I'm doing is evil or bad, or I feel like what I'm doing is good because I connect. I'm not a Christian, but I respect Christianity 100%, and I respect your choice of that, of course. And so that's why me and you can coexist in the world because I respect you.
So that being said, how's this movement of diversity, inclusion, and equity going?
That's a great question. The
I,
movement of it's not real. That's a whole other what I was telling you about foundation, right?
yeah,
It's another talking point. It's
yeah,
another way to control us. It's
mhm,
another way to say you need to have DEI training in your work to blah 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 blah. That's all scam. It's a racket. The whole thing is a racket.
mhm.
And they're just, pushing this agenda. Look, some people might not be okay with gay people. So what? Who cares? We can move on from that, right? Maybe they have religious beliefs that don't want them to think I can change my sex, right? And that thing. And I completely have no issues with that. But I coexist with people like that all the time because I know how to do it. And how you make the world work is we have to figure out a way to be on this planet together.
Yes.
Even though, and how you do that is you respect each other. I live next door to people I would probably never hang out with, but we respect each other as neighbors. We say hi to each other every morning. We pick up our dog poop. We do all the things you do as a respectful neighbor, and we
Yeah.
coexist on
Yeah.
the same block together.
Right. Yeah.
Wow. I
Yeah.
mean, it's so simple. Remember, I'm older. I've been around the block a million times. And that I don't want to call it wisdom, but I have experience, a lot of experience in how I navigated the world to get here. And I did it with a lot of hate against me, my friend. I didn't have the internet. I didn't have what a
Mhm.
lot of these young people have. I didn't have the community they have, but I found a way to walk the world in peace and happiness and get into a space. And that's what they don't have. And that's why they fear me because I'm like, nope, you're not living in truth. You're living in somebody else's truth, but not the actual real truth of the universe.
Mhm. Mhm. Well, thank you for that.
Thank you. No, it's important that people see. That's why religion is powerful. And that's why people go to religion. They go to religion because they're seeking. Everyone's seeking happiness. We all want to be happy. We all want to have. So people are seeking what does it mean to be happy? But they're not teaching people to look inside of themselves. If you're not happy here, you are not, I don't care what you're looking for, but if you are not comfortable, happy, solid, truthful about yourself, and it's why I'm truthful about my biology. I'm truthful that I am a female, and I will always be a female. There is just not. I look like a man so that you think I'm a man.
Yeah, you haven't, if I might say so, you haven't fully transitioned now, have you?
No, I have no what we call bottom, right? So I still have the female genitalia. Yes. Yeah. But it's doesn't
It's
it's
great.
not who cares? That's right. Who cares? You know what? That's exactly right. I had to learn to navigate it. It wasn't
Yeah,
comfortable for me, but
yeah,
that's like anything that, that you have in life. Let's say, God forbid, I lost my arms. I would have to learn. I'm not going to give up. Do you think I would give up if my arms fell off? No way. I would learn how to eat everything. That's the kind of guy I am. Like
yeah.
once I learned that, life throws you crap, and that's a reality, kids. If you're going to cry over the
True.
fact that you can't work at Starbucks because you're so anxious, and you're really in for a big surprise, kiddo. And if you're gonna think if you're gonna think that it's violent to say misgender you, you are not gonna make it in this world. And that's what we're teaching these young people. You know
Yes.
that? That's
Yes.
so dangerous and gross. I won't do that. That's why I'm Trampaw. I'm like, sit down. Let me tell you something, kiddo. Trans is like this part of your life. Okay, get it together. Now go out and be something. Stop
Right.
saying I'm
Right.
trans. Like, get it together. And I swear the kids are hearing me. Some of the kids are actually hearing me, and they're
Excellent.
detaching from that nonsense. And I'm like, look at me, guys. I made so much of myself. Everything you see I've done because I care about me. It's not because I'm trans. It's because I decided that I wanted to create in the world, and no one's going to stop me. And you're missing the whole point of transition. The whole point of transition is to be happy and to be successful. And you're also angry and disconnected and mean. Why are you transitioning?
That's beautifully put.
Thank you.
You're welcome. Is there anything else that you want to leave with today for us to think about, for us all to ponder?
Yeah, I would. And what I would like for you to know is what you see out there is not a representation of a community. It's a representation of a very specific part. And I also want you to know that, remember, media can skew things. And if you're not looking at all sides of the picture and only watching CNN or only watching Fox, you're not getting the whole picture, because I don't believe the media even cares to tell the truth at this point. And so I really highly, highly recommend that you search on internet, ask things, reach out to me, look at different sides of all the stories. Because even I'm going to use the example of drag queens, okay, and kids.
Yes. Yeah.
Yeah, that's for sure happening. There's no doubt. But the majority of it, it's not. I have tons of drag queen friends. They don't like that. They don't want to be associated with kids. But, media does pull things. You have to realize that. And it extends it out there and says, look, they're all perverted weirdos. And that's a shame,
It
because
is.
it's not a representation of us. And drag queens are not doing that. There are some things happening that way, no doubt.
Yeah.
And that's something we do need to, in our community, we need to take care of. And it's why I think we're responsible for that. And we as a community need to talk about it and start saying, once you put kids in the picture, friend, which I said earlier,
Yeah.
that's it. The world's going to come after you. Take the kids out of the picture, and everybody doesn't matter. They don't care what we do.
Yeah.
So just do the due diligence. I ask you out there, do the due diligence. Know that there are things being said out there that don't represent people like myself, and that we do care about you people who are not LGBTQ. We do care that you see us in a way that we can coexist with you, and we don't hate you, and we don't not want to be part of the world. We do. And I think that's the people who have the loudest voices right now are misrepresenting what we really want in this world. And that's it, really.
Yeah. Well, thank you. I mean, I could, touch on some other things, but I think we'll call it a day.
It's really intense.
It really is. Yeah. So thank you.
Thank you, friend.
Yeah.
Appreciate you.
Thank you. All the best to you and Rebecca and your child
you.
and everything that you're doing. I'll continue watching your podcast and sending the messages out, and sending you good health, and keep going.
Thank you, friend.
Yeah, you're wonderful.
Thank you. It means a lot to me. I appreciate you. I appreciate you reaching out and having the conversation.
I'm just a small little podcast.
Doesn't matter.
You've got millions of people following.
Doesn't matter.
God bless that man.
Don't say that. Don't say that, because there's going to be one person there.
Yeah.
I do podcasts that have 1 million listeners, and I do podcasts that have 10 listeners. Why do I do that?
Yeah.
Because I care.
Yeah.
And so it's
I
just
know.
because you have a million followers, that's an illusion too. People are these numbers games, right? I have a million followers. Yeah, that's powerful. But what about your followers who don't necessarily go to that podcast, who are struggling with a child somewhere? And maybe I reached a mom right now who could say, okay, I'm pulling the plug on this nonsense and I'm going to chill out a little bit. And I'm like, do that. If you're a parent, do it.
I
Be a
was going to
parent.
ask you that. Yeah.
Be a parent.
Perfect.
Parents are here to guide their children. And
Yeah.
if you have to say no, say no. And don't let them gaslight you. Oh, then your child's going to kill themselves. No, they're not. They might get mad at you. They might run away from home. They might do the normal things kids do. But I'll tell you what, your kid's going to turn around and thank you in the long run. I'm not kidding. A lot of these kids are going to be pissed at their parents when they grow up and realize they should have never transitioned ever.
Right.
Ever.
Yeah.
So thank you, friend. I appreciate you giving me the voice here.
Yeah, you're welcome. And anyway, I encourage everybody to go listen to, if you're on Instagram, Buck has all these wonderful posts and even these, impromptu talks that he does on Instagram. He also has a YouTube channel and just a variety of interviews with just, people, both men and women and everything in between.
That's right.
who have had their own experiences and call it what it is. This is, and it's done respectfully, and I find it very educational. So thank you so much for today.
Oh, sweet. Thank you, friend. Have a great day.
Thank you. And you. Glory, 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 hallelujah.
Right on.
All right. Cheers. Bye, everybody. Take care of yourselves. And thanks for coming in.